Do you believe in absolute loyalty? Have you ever witnessed a love that lasts a lifetime regardless of time, weather, or the indifferent gazes of the world? Today, I will tell you a true story about Max, a loyal dog who touched millions of hearts and changed the way people perceive love. A story about a dog who waited for 10 years in the same place for someone who would never return. Rain or shine, scorching summer or freezing winter. Day after day, month after month, year after year, he remained there. Never leaving, never searching for another place, never accepting a new owner. Because his heart was still waiting for something that would never come. Stay with this story until the end. I promise it will make you see love, loyalty, and waiting from a completely different perspective. The train arrives. The doors open. Passengers step off, merging into the hurried crowd. Laughter, hugs, and greetings echo through the bustling station. People reunite, people return home. But in a small corner of the station, a pair of eyes remains fixed. No movement. No steps forward. Just waiting. Is Jack on this train? The crowd thins. The train doors close. The whistle blows. No, Jack hasn't returned. Max lowers his head. His tail gives a faint twitch, then falls still. Another day passes. Have you ever witnessed an unconditional love? A loyalty that lasts for 10 years despite time, weather, and the indifferent gazes of the world. Max doesn't know how to count the days. He only knows one thing. Jack will return. And he will wait. But what if Jack never comes back? Max once had no one. He was just a small, abandoned dog at a rescue shelter, thin, scruffy, his eyes filled with fear. Every day he curled up in a corner, watching other dogs get adopted, hoping, then despairing. Until that day. A young man appeared. A simple look, worn-out jacket, but warm eyes. He knelt down, extending his hand toward Max. Do you want to come home with me? For the first time, Max cautiously stepped forward, sniffing that hand. He didn't know what home was, but this warmth, he wanted to trust it. Jack gave him the name Max, and from that day on, they never left each other's side. Every morning, Max followed Jack to the train station, sitting by the entrance, watching his familiar figure step onto the train. In the afternoon, he would run back, tail wagging wildly as he saw Jack step off. It was a cycle. A routine. To Max, Jack was his whole world, and in that world, Jack always came back. But have you ever thought that one day even the most familiar things could disappear? That sometimes there are departures with no return? That day, the sky was overcast, and the cold wind swept past the towering buildings. Jack, as usual, slung his backpack over his shoulder, bent down, and patted Max's head before leaving. Be good, Max. See you tonight. Max looked at him, blinked, and nuzzled his nose against Jack's hand. Something felt strange. Do you believe in a dog's intuition? Can they sense when it will be the last time? Perhaps Jack felt it too, because that day he hesitated a little longer, smiled just a little more. Max watched Jack walk away, let out a small bark as if to call him back, but Jack had already stepped onto the train. And then he was gone. And he never came back. That was the last time Max ever saw Jack. The accident happened just a few blocks from the station. The screech of brakes shattered the air. A scream rang out amidst the crowded streets. Blood spread across the pavement. A backpack lay abandoned on the sidewalk. Jack was gone. But Max didn't know that. He still ran to the station, his tail wagging excitedly as the train arrived. But Jack didn't step off. The next day he came again. And the next day. And for thousands of days after that. He was still there, waiting. Can you imagine it? If the one you loved most disappeared, how long would you wait? A month? A year? Or 10 years? Rain, snow, the stifling heat of summer, the bone-chilling cold of winter. Max remained in the same spot, his eyes fixed on the train doors. People began to notice him. How long has this dog been sitting here? Years he's been waiting for someone. Poor thing! Someone should take him in. Kind strangers brought Max food and water, but he only ate when necessary, never straying too far. Because Jack hadn't come back yet. Do you think, if Max knew his owner would never return, he would give up? Years passed. The golden fur that once shone so brightly was now streaked with silver. His steps were slower, his breaths heavier, but his eyes remained filled with the same unwavering hope. One day, Jack would return, and he would wait. That morning, the cold was biting, cutting through the air like a blade. Snow covered every street in a blanket of white. The train doors opened, just like every other day. But today, Max didn't run to look at them. He lay there, on the frozen ground, his breath shallow. His eyes half closed, but they seemed to be seeing something. Jack! The same familiar figure, with that gentle smile, reaching out just like always. Max wagged his tail. One last time. And then he closed his eyes. If you were Max, would you regret waiting? People stopped in their tracks. Someone knelt down, gently placing a hand on his fur now stiff from the cold. Max has gone to sleep. After 10 years of waiting, at last he could rest. No one knew if Max ever understood that Jack was never coming back, but one thing was certain: he waited until his very last breath. News of Max spread throughout the town. The people decided to build a small statue at the station, the place where Max had waited for 10 long years. A little dog, head lifted, gazing toward the platform, his eyes forever fixed on the tracks. But the strange thing was, other dogs passing by would always stop, sniff the statue gently, and then move on. As if they, too, could feel the great love that once existed there. And if you ever visit that place on a quiet evening, as the golden sunset bathes the cold station in light, you will see Max is still waiting. Perhaps, somewhere out there, Jack and Max have finally reunited. Love does not always need words. Sometimes, it is simply a silent waiting, even when you know they will never return. Max never understood time, never knew the pain of loss. He only knew one thing: that love meant waiting. And sometimes the loyalty of a dog can teach us the true meaning of love. Have you ever witnessed a love like that? A love that needs no words, a devotion that lasts a lifetime, a loyalty that never fades. If you've ever known a dog like Max, a faithful companion, a story that touches the heart, share it with us. We'd love to hear it. Leave a comment below. We want to hear your story. And if you believe that love and loyalty deserve to be remembered, hit like, share, and subscribe to help us spread meaningful stories. We're on our way to our first 1,000 subscribers. Each subscription is a motivation for us to keep creating, sharing stories that touch the heart, and bringing positive values to life. Click the subscribe button now and become a part of this journey. And don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss a story. Together we can create something beautiful and spread love to the world. Are you ready to write the next chapter of this story with us?